I'm not going to immediately say tariffs are bad. Ironically enough, as I have said time and time again since Trump announced that he was going to do fucking, tariffs over and over again. The problem with Trump's tariffs is not that he is implementing tariffs across the board. The problem with Trump's tariffs is that he's doing. I have no emotion
President
otherwise.
Trump pushing
like,
ahead.
I know this guy. My favorite content creator, Asmongold, hates him. Yeah, cops do watch Asmongold, as we know. So, I don't think it'd be a stretch to assume that CBP, border cops, would also be watching his ass. All right. What are we doing? We're messing around too much. It's Liberation Day, folks. It's Liberation Day.
With his America First agenda.
Breaking news, Apple announced it's going to work with Foxconn to build a server factory in Texas by 2026.
The company says it is now planning to invest $500 billion in the U.S. economy.
The CEO of SoftBank pledging to invest $1 billion in the U.S. over the next 4 years.
This is President Trump delivering on the promise he made to the American people on the campaign trail.
The idea is come to America, build greatness in America, build for American customers.
Project Stargate. It's a joint venture between SoftBank, Oracle, and OpenAI, and they're going to create a data center that will eventually be expanded to other states.
Shows people are listening to Mr. Trump's pitch to bring new industry to America.
This is the latest pledge from a foreign business leader promising to spend big in the U.S. as a result of Trump's election victory.
Founder of the property development company DeMac Properties is pledging the money.
President Trump announcing $100 billion investment from Taiwan Semiconductor, bringing the company's total American investments to $165 billion.
The most powerful.
The thing about all of this that I am still genuinely confused by is that as a leftist, okay, I am not against trade protectionist moves. I'm not a free trader, okay? As much as I love how much China has been able to develop as a consequence of that free trade, I'm not a free trader, okay? I'm not. So I'm not inherently anti-tariffs. This is something that I have talked about quite frequently on this broadcast ever since the tariff stuff happened. Having said that, there's two things that don't make any sense. One, broad tariffs across the board against every single country is insane. It's just stupid. It's just not it doesn't make sense. It literally does not make sense from a right-wing perspective. It does not make sense from a left-wing perspective. It just simply does not make sense. I'm sorry. I know Giannis Varoufakis tries to find like the 5D chess move behind all of this, but like it still does not make sense. The reason why it doesn't make sense is because some materials are not, they just don't exist here, okay? Some of the goods that we need to bring into the country simply do not exist in the United States of America. A lot of goods that maybe used to be previously manufactured in the United States of America don't get manufactured in the United States of America any longer, so there's no competent, competitive domestic manufacturing capabilities in this country. So this is precisely the reason why it kind of doesn't make sense. Like, it makes sense for the UAW to be on board with these tariffs because they are a domestic car manufacturer. Okay? If the goal ultimately is to beef up U.S. manufacturing, then great. Obviously, I have issues with that as well because I wish that, I mean, this is not about the UAW, but more so like Ford and all these American manufacturers. Like, I wish they would also focus their efforts on making perhaps maybe smaller cars, safer cars, nicer cars in general, electric vehicles that are competitive with like the Chinese EV scene. It's impossible to do at this point regardless, but like, you know, those are different issues. But in terms of the pure economics of this, I understand why a Bernie Sanders style presidency would engage in a similar act. They'd probably get assassinated before they completed it. But I understand why someone would do trade protectionism, especially as it pertains to competitive domestic manufacturing capability having sectors like cars. Okay? One of the few It's basically one of the few industries that exists in this country that is not about making baby machines. Ironically enough, you can make the argument that cars are baby machines because they're so high and so large, so they definitely run over pedestrians under a certain height, i.e. children. But that's not the point I'm making right now. That's not the point I'm making currently. I'm not going to be making that point. But it still doesn't make sense what he's doing. It does not.
AI chips in the world will be made right here in America.
Things happen so quickly in the Trump world, right? It's 100 days. Right. It feels like it's 100 months. This is leadership. This is taking control of the problem for military, for everything, for industrial, for our economy. Even if it causes short-term pain, the reality is it is the right decision.
NVIDIA says it will invest hundreds of billions of dollars over the next 4 years, part of the manufacturing renaissance under President Donald J. Trump.
Furniture maker Prepack are shifting their operations from Canada to North Carolina.
Johnson & Johnson.
UAW fucked people supporting Trump? No. The UAW does not broadly support Trump. The UAW, on the other hand, does support these tariffs, specifically ones that are placed upon car manufacturers. The reason why the UAW supports that is because it is comprised, not entirely, but a big chunk of UAW is, as is the name, United Auto Workers. They are auto manufacturers, an auto manufacturing labor union. Yeah, of course they're going to support trade protectionism that will inevitably yield larger, larger and larger initiatives to build more automobiles in the United States of America. Why wouldn't they support that? That makes sense. Yeah, that part makes sense. I don't even have necessarily an issue with the automobile tariffs in general. Will it lead to price increases? Yes. Unless you also force these companies not to increase their prices. I don't know if Donald Trump is going to be able to do that. Who knows? Okay. And then you have a potential capital strike. There's just a lot of complications here because any kind of inherently anti-profit initiative that you engage in a country like the United States of America is going to have a lot of backlash and a lot of issues. Okay. Having said that, this right here, like what he's doing is the weirdest way to implement these tariffs because they're broad tariffs across the board, country by country. It's not even sector specific. It's not industry specific. It just does not make sense.
Johnson says it will invest more than $55 billion in the U.S. for years.
Hyundai announced a $20 billion.
It especially doesn't make sense because we're talking about Donald Trump. Now, Donald Trump obviously is an anti-NAFTA president. He ran and successfully won because he was anti-NAFTA. And then when he did actually win the first term, he basically did NAFTA too. He continued free trade with Canada and Mexico. Ironically enough, Trump too, he has a different attitude now. Okay? Because he did that. He did another version of NAFTA when he was the president. That was the first thing that he implemented. Okay, the USMCA. Now, what's interesting about this is this time it seems like he's trying to go against that. But it doesn't make sense as to why he would go against that because you're a right-wing guy. Like, why are you anti-free trade? It's shocking. I'm anti-free trade. Trump shouldn't be. But even when he's anti-free trade, he's not even anti-free trade in the appropriate way. He's still anti-free trade in a way where it does not make any sense. It especially doesn't make sense when you consider the fact that Donald Trump also is not pro-labor. He's not pro-labor unions at all. He literally stopped the collective bargaining capacity for 1 million plus federal workers a couple weeks ago, like 2 weeks ago, he did that with a stroke of a pen. It's crazy.
Our investment.
With your leadership, Mr. President, Hyundai Motor Group is proud to be a stronger partner in America's industrial future.
This is the automobile industry.
Could you explain your view on free trade? I think that collaborative trade is great. It's fantastic, but obviously a big part of why American manufacturing output was eviscerated, with the exception of, like, I guess, national defense. And even then you have a lot of cutouts where you can work with American allies, which happens to be the entire country. I mean, the entire planet, with the exception of, I guess, like China, Iran, Cuba, and a couple countries like Venezuela. Like there is no manufacturing base in this country. There used to be. it's important to have factories. Look at Germany. Do you see what I'm saying? Look at Germany. Why is Germany still the economic engine that drives the European Union? It's because they still have factories. They still have jobs. They still have things that they're building. And obviously, it isn't law. Wait, what? Dude, no? Okay. I don't know. I don't know what would be the industrial heart of Europe in that regard. Germany is losing? Yeah, no shit. I know Germany's losing. That's not my point. That's not what I'm saying. Shut up. Oh my God. That's a different sentence. I never said Germany is growing all the time and it's great, okay? The German economy is great. I said Germany, as it stands, is still very much the industrial powerhouse of Europe. It is the economic engine that drives Europe. And the reason for that is because they still have manufacturing capabilities. But my point is that ultimately NAFTA and these kinds of free trade agreements eviscerated, they destroyed the American working class. They did. And that built a lot of resentment against the Democrats, who were seen as being responsible for implementing these free trade agreements, ironically enough, even though it is a uniparty principle. And it was certainly backed by the Republicans initially. So for that reason, Donald Trump was able to develop a lot of clout amongst these non-college educated white working class individuals who haven't really had a good paying job in decades at this point. Okay. That's what destroyed this country's manufacturing capabilities, because there was not necessarily capital flight, but I guess you could consider it capital flight. They moved their manufacturing to China. They moved their manufacturing overseas. Now, trade protectionism is a necessity to ensure that that does not happen. It should have happened back then. Of course, it never did. And multiple decades later, after you have designed this global web, of trade, you're turning around and going, yeah, we're gonna break it entirely. That is always going to be a difficult situation. That's always going to be an incredible, mountainous task to defeat, especially when you're a right-wing guy, especially when you're seemingly on the side of capital. It just doesn't make any sense the way he's doing this. I don't know if he is capable of undermining China as like the industrial hub by making, by trying to bring back manufacturing to the United States of America. I like the idea of bringing back manufacturing into the United States of America. I literally use domestic labor union manufacturing with my fucking merchandise, okay? I am a socialist. I'm a leftist. I'm pro trade unionist. I'm anti-capitalist. Of course I like fucking American manufacturing. I want American manufacturing to grow. I want there to be competent, competitive, domestic manufacturing in this country with good paying labor union jobs, with good benefits. That is the whole project, okay? Now, because of that, I'm not going to immediately say tariffs are bad, ironically enough, as I have said time and time again since Trump announced that he was going to do fucking, tariffs over and over again. The problem with Trump's tariffs is not that he is implementing tariffs across the board. The problem with Trump's tariffs is that he's doing it for seemingly no fucking real reason, and he's doing it with no competent manufacturing output at the domestic level. So for the UAW side, it makes sense. But if you look at anything else, or even if you look at certain car parts or certain goods that are necessary for cars to even be built, like all of a sudden you're beefing up the prices. You're immediately boosting the prices across the board, because everything in this current global web of trade, everything, even without free trade agreements with like Canada or Mexico, still crosses many different borders before they come to the United States of America.
Now those plants largely have stopped and they're moving them to our country. Honda is building one of the biggest plants.
The trade story is certainly picking up speed here and pushing more countries to.
I think one of the biggest ironies here is that this is the one thing that will cause. This is the one thing that will cause Americans to rise up and take up arms against the current administration, no matter who is running the show. Even Donald Trump, who has a cult, right? You cannot touch America's treats. Treats have to be affordable and accessible. That is the one thing that you cannot touch. And this actually touches the treats. J.D. Pondon says treat rights will suffer. Permanent first world genocide, says J.D. Pondon. No more treats. The suburbs will cry tears of blood. That's what he's doing. The secondary benefit of the mass tariffs implemented, of course, is that he would be eviscerating his favorite sector. The number one industry for Trump supporters is, of course, what? Trump merchandise. This destroys that sector entirely. Okay. And I like that. I appreciate that. I'm sorry. Get mad at me. Say I'm being fucking petty. But I think it's awesome that he is personally going up to his super fans and saying, fuck you. You're going to die. Fuck you. You're not going to be able to feed your children any longer. Okay. And I think that's very funny. I'm sorry. If you made a living selling Trump merch, drop shipping off of from fucking Chinese factories, and Donald Trump just slaps you with a fucking entry fee that you need to pay now, and you have to raise the price of your fucking ugly ass Trump shirts $35, okay, by $35, and now nobody in your podunk town wants to fucking purchase them anymore because they're far too expensive. Yeah, sucks to suck, big dog. Gotta close up shop now. Don't have to see 11 ugly ass Trump merch stores every time you're passing by one of these fucking flyover states. Yeah, sorry. What's going to happen to the hog shops? What's going to happen to the hog shops? But yeah, the one thing that people care about is their bag, okay? And you're fucking up the bag big time. And he knows he's fucking up the bag big time, which is why he's doing the tariffs announcement after the market closes, which is pretty funny.
To make these bigger investments.
It's another example of the Trump effect.
GE Aerospace announcing a nearly $1 billion investment into American manufacturing.
Eli Lilly announcing plans to expand its manufacturing here in the United States.
$27 billion additional spend, bringing our total to more than $50 billion.
The money's rolling in, and this is in the past 60 some odd days, Charles.
These are deep-pocketed folks who want to have a relationship, and it's just smart moves.
We are CMA CGM, one of the leaders in shipping and logistics around the world today.
Dude, I love that he has not stopped having that ugly ass Gulf of America poster. It is so perfect. It is such a perfect demonstration of Trump. Okay, all optics, no motion. Every time he does have motion in a direction, it just like breaks things beyond repair. And then he has to go back and fix it and then go, see, I fixed it. It's fine. Well, you broke it. You broke it first. And the only area where he has like any sort of optic victory is fucking renaming the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. That's it. And he's so proud of it. He just shows it in front of Kid Rock and every other goddamn world leader that comes in.
We are investing $20 billion.
Foreign leaders from around the world, investors from Silicon Valley to Wall Street to Main Street have confidence again in our economy and our markets and in President Trump.
The Trump effect this morning, a string of massive wins for American manufacturing. The numbers speak for themselves. Wisconsin-based Clarios is putting up $6 billion to expand its American operation. And what's driving these decisions? Well, President Trump's aggressive Made in America policies and his commitment to bringing industry back to American soil. This is exactly what Trump promised. America First is back.
That's right, baby. So there it is. I mean, as I've told you, this is J.D. Pondon. This is permanent first world treat the right genocide. Okay, it's happening. He's doing it. He's doing it. He's doing it. The mad lad. It's Liberation Day. I hope you feel liberated.
President Trump set to announce a sweeping new round of tariff sales taxes that will have a huge impact on consumers and the economy. Rebecca Jarvis is going to break that down after this report from Chief White House correspondent Mary Bruce. Good morning, Mary.
Good morning, George. Well, after weeks of uncertainty and anxiety, in just hours here, President Trump is finally set to unveil his most aggressive tariffs yet. He says they will restore fairness to the global trading system and ultimately grow the U.S. economy. But economists warn American consumers will pay the price. This morning, the country and the world bracing for impact as President Trump prepares to unleash reciprocal tariffs on America's trading partners, what he's calling Liberation Day.
What they do to us, we do to them.
But it remains unclear what exactly the president will announce today. The scope of these tariffs and which countries will be targeted still unknown.
He's with his trade and tariff team right now, perfecting it to make sure this is a perfect.
This is one of my favorite parts of the Trump administration. Aren't you a treat Lorite yourself, lol? Yeah, I am. I love treats. But also, if there was a world where, well, first of all, it won't impact me. It doesn't matter. Everybody likes to talk about how much money I spend, but like for how much money I make, the amount of money I spend is negligible. Okay, so it's not a real issue. I'm being very honest with you. Many people in my financial circumstance will lie to you and be like, "Oh, this is really hitting me hard." Rich people are lying to you when they say that. Okay, that's number one. Number two, as a treat Lorite myself, ultimately, if fucking there was a limitation on what kind of treats I could consume that still yielded tremendous bounty for the American working class, I would take that shit in a heartbeat. I don't give a fuck. I've said this before. I would literally dump the fucking Taycan in the goddamn ocean if it meant that we could have walkable cities in Los Angeles and public transit. I would never even look at it ever again. That's you know, it's so stupid. My advocacy revolves around trying to raise taxes on people like myself. This is not like a gotcha at all. Having said all of this, hold on. My garage is called the Ocean. Yeah, I would literally ocean. I was pro trade protections policy until the BYD U9 Speed got to try out, and now my treat Lorite mind started foaming and shaking. Yeah, I know. Wait, what was I gonna say? What was I talking about? I'm forgetting. Oh, one of my favorite parts about the Trump administration always is like they have the energy of me during finals at school, where it just everything feels haphazard and slapped together last second. It's like they've been talking about implementing these tariffs for months now. Donald Trump said he was going to do it the entire time for like a year before he even before the election. Right? Before the actual election day, he was like, tariffs is my favorite word. And it's like, now the time has come. He set himself, he set this hard deadline on himself. And even then, they're like, they're working round the clock. They're up late night trying to figure out these tariffs. It's like, bitch, what do you mean they're up late night? This guy's been saying he wanted to do this for a year and a half. Why are they talking about tariffs literally the day before he implements them? Are you guys crazy? What are you talking about? This isn't some bullshit class that you took in college to get an easy A to beef up your overall grade, okay? This is the fucking global economy. This is the entirety of the American economy. And these guys, yeah, we're working tirelessly around the clock. We're planning it. It's like, well, maybe you should have planned it before you came out with this idea. This doesn't make any sense. What the hell?
Perfect deal for the American people and the American worker.
The uncertainty is injecting fresh concern into an already jittery stock market, as economists warn American consumers.
More than Biden did in his whole term, though. That is hilarious. Okay, first of all, I love the cope from Republicans. I know this chatter is joking, but like, no, that's not the case. Okay? I'm sorry. If anything, the issue with the Democratic Party is that they don't do enough of this. There's a balance here, okay? Sometimes you do have to break things and move fast and then pick up the pieces afterwards, especially if your direction is appropriate, especially if your direction is pro labor unions, pro working class, right? The Democrats never do that. That is my problem with them. They never do that. They are genuinely terrified. They endlessly focus test every single minute detail until their plans are basically nothing. And they are so conciliatory. They come to the table they come to the bargaining table pre-bargained. And then they reduce the policy implementation after the fact too. It is one of the most annoying aspects of this. It's one of the most annoying parts of how the Democrats operate. It's one thing that I always say when I'm like, Democrats should do politics like the Republican Party and not the policies of the Republican Party. Okay? I wish they were just like moving fast. Can you imagine Build Back Better is like, oh, look alive, Jack. We're doing an engineering corps. I don't care. Oh, you don't like it? Well, guess what? You'll like it when the potholes are fixed in your neighborhood. You know, that type of shit. That's the energy that I wish Democrats ever had. Of course, Brandon would never be able to do that because he's dead. He's a dead man. He was a cadaver. Okay?
Consumers will bear the brunt of this. Tariffs on imported products are taxes paid by American businesses. Those costs are then passed along to consumers in the form of higher prices on everything from groceries and electronics to cars and clothes. The president insists his tariffs will ultimately boost the economy and encourage manufacturing in the U.S., but it could take years to ramp up production on American soil. The message from the White House.
Yes, of course it will take years to ramp up production. And of course there will be growing pains. The problem is the guy that is implementing this is not pro-labor. And therefore, I don't even know what reason he's implementing this for to begin with. It just doesn't make any sense. I suspect he backtracks from the tariff stuff eventually. He's just going to backtrack. Answer my dono, Shoe Sniffer 42. Write it in the chat instead of donating it. This shit's so funny because like CEOs can take a tiny bit of stagnant millions and not raise our prices. Yeah, that's never going to happen. Let's be real.
Have faith.
You should trust what this president did for you in his first term. He effectively utilized tariffs while driving down inflation.
But experts have concluded the tariffs during Trump's first term drove prices up. The president sees these new tariffs as a means of economic redemption, a way to punish countries that he feels treat the U.S. unfairly.
Many countries have taken advantage of us.
He has acknowledged Americans could feel some
I've been avoiding the news. How do I do self-care to stay aware? Wait, what? Okay, dude, I'm not going to answer that question right now. Come on.
Short-term economic pain. The big question, how long will it last? Consumers now rattled and racing to make big purchases like cars before the tariffs hit.
This weekend alone, I think we sold and delivered probably about 40 cars, which is 20-30% above.
Yeah, what's funny about this also is that it has led to a short-term boost. Now, obviously, car prices are immediately going to go up. Ironically enough, it's going to go up regardless because of the tariffs, even if their inventory is not diminishing. Like a big chunk of the inventory that they have so far pre-tariffs, they're in that process. These guys are going to take advantage of the commotion. They're going to take advantage of the chaos. They're going to pump those numbers to the best of their ability. That's the other side of this, because no one, and I mean no one, cares about their fellow neighbors, okay? They only care about this. Thank you, Perry Plays, for the 10 gifted subs. So it's already, it will have an inflationary effect even before the tariffs are implemented.
Of normal.
In Brooklyn, New York, Robert Samuel decided it wasn't worth the risk to wait.
Yeah, I was going to purchase a car later down the line, but now that it's been updated with these tariff prices affecting us, I decided to come in today and leave with one of them today.
And the president will finally unveil these tariffs here in a Rose Garden ceremony at 4 p.m. after the market.
But a lot of people buying new cars are rich bastards. Dude, what are you talking about? Like, think about the entire economy, dude. There's like 330 million people on this in this country. Not every single person that's buying a fucking Honda Civic is a rich bastard. Okay? Like, everyone needs a car, unfortunately. It's not. What are you talking about? Oh, Jesus.
Markets close. We are told they will go into effect immediately, George.
Okay, Marianne, one other thing that's going into effect, these massive layoffs at the Department of Health and Human Services.
George, 10,000 layoffs are now underway at HHS. The move catching many off guard. We saw those long lines yesterday of federal workers outside buildings waiting to learn if they'd been fired. Some showing up only to discover their badges had been cut off. Now, among those fired,
Incredible.
the FDA's top tobacco regulator under.
Incredible work, sir. Thank you so much. Mass layoffs at the federal, mass layoffs at federal agencies, mass price hikes. It's just like, it feels like you're just trying to break everything, and not even for some kind of decipherable good purpose where you're going to rebuild it in a way that benefits the needs of the 99%. You're just kind of breaking it. And it doesn't even feel like you're breaking it for capital owners either. It feels like you're breaking it for the sake of breaking it. That's what's so crazy.
Under whose leadership teenage tobacco use dropped to its lowest point in a decade, also laid off researchers working on everything from drug use and mental health to reproduction and infertility. And
it's awesome because ideologically, Donald Trump's actions here are, if they weren't so insane, if they were directional, if they were directed like a specific sector with the intention of like boosting manufacturing in the United States of America, Republicans will still have a hard time defending it because Republicans are free tradists. They love free trade. They defend capital. Capital loves free trade. It is perhaps the greatest way that you can instantly reduce the only malleable aspect of your commodity production. That is labor. That's the most malleable part of commodity production. Okay, unless you find a new sector where there's just like a robust amount of the ingredients that you need to build things, right? Without that, unless like natural resources boost or something, it's pretty set. Like prices prices for just like simply the things that you need to the raw goods that you need to build shit is set already, okay? Whereas the labor part of this is the most malleable aspect of it. It's the one that you can dominate. It's the one that you can always lower, okay? With technological improvements, you can always reduce the number of people that you have to pay for benefits on. You reduce the potential cost down the line if your workers are getting sick or hurt, and then you have to do additional payouts, right? It is the greatest way to improve your profit margins. Now, this is precisely the reason why it was a massively beneficial move to be able to move manufacturing to a developing country, and to many developing countries, as a matter of fact. It was awesome for the capital owners. They did that. They were so stoked on it. Therefore, it's very difficult for the Republicans on Fox News to defend this move, to defend the tariffs, which, albeit are being done also in a haphazard way. But even if they were done in a directional way, with direct coordination with like labor unions, for example, they still would have a hard time defending it. This is ideologically the exact opposite of what these people believe. They're free trade guys, okay? And the Democratic Party is also permanently on the free trade side of things. It's crazy. It's like a total uniparty position, with the exception of Donald Trump, it seems.
And workplace safety. George.
Okay, Mary Bruce, thanks very much.
Turning now to some very rare good news for Democrats. A clear victory for their candidate, Susan Crawford, for a crucial seat on Wisconsin's Supreme Court.
Before we get to this Democrat-backed candidate wins Wisconsin stuff, I wanna complete my thoughts on this, right? I wanna complete my thoughts on this. Part of the reason why they're doing tariffs, another signaling of xenophobic nationalism, the underpinning of the entire administration. I mean, that part I kind of get. When you make that argument, I kind of understand it, because like it doesn't make sense otherwise for someone like Donald Trump specifically to be, what tariffs are a failure, page 801 to 802. Yeah, it's one of the aspects of the Trump administration that like virtually everyone on the right despises. I'm not saying I disagree with you, but what does it matter what the uniparty stance is if we can't point out any real counter movement? What do you mean? He gets to walk a thin line of claiming we're bringing manufacturing jobs back, but then gets to please capital owners by making sure unions are gutted and will have no bargaining power for the few jobs that will now be automated. Yeah, I think if I were to dive into Trump's mind for a brief moment and try to understand where he's coming from, perhaps it is because they want American manufacturing to return because of national security concerns against China. Because if China were to ever, God forbid, shut off the trade faucet to the United States of America, we would collapse. We would collapse overnight. Maybe that's part of the reason. Maybe another part of the reason is because Trump does want to boost the American economy, or at least like jobs, boost American jobs. It's probably the first thing more so than the second thing. What is this? Read the bottom of... As opposed to travel the kind of non-reciprocal tariffs that American manufacturers often face, the MFN tariff for automobiles applied to the U.S. only 2.5%. In contrast, EU charges 10%, Communist China 15%, Brazil 35%. Similarly, while the U.S. applies an MFN tariff rate of 6.2% on the rice it buys from Malaysia, Malaysia applies an ad valorem equivalent tariff of 40% on rice from the U.S. Meanwhile, European milk producers are shielded by 67% tariffs, while American milk producers benefit only from a 15% tariff on foreign imports. Wait, this seems like they are on board with the challenge one. Unfair and non-reciprocal trade is institutionalized in world trade rules. Communist China. No, this seems like they're on board with it. Non-reciprocal tariff rates under most favored nation rule. Anyway, let's go to 801, page number 801. Right, that's the one you wanted me to go to. Let's see what they're saying on Project 2025 on this. Repeal the Jones Act, century-old Buy American maritime law that has decimated the U.S. shipbuilding industry. Work with Congress to restore the President's Trade Promotion Authority, which would expedite the negotiation of trade agreements with the United Kingdom, Switzerland, Taiwan, European Union, other allies. Restore the World Trade Organization's dispute resolution process to full strength. Create a successor to the World Trade Organization, assuming that it has been fatally wounded, that is open only to liberal democracies. This would prevent authoritarian countries like China from abusing ends. Oh my God. Adopt a multi-pronged... Yeah, this is all an effort to undermine pre-existing international institutions that America has already used as a fucking as a cum sock, only because like in that process China was able to expertly take advantage of the endless profit-seeking capital owners in the United States of America and develop a competent manufacturing and become the manufacturing hub of the planet. Adopt a multi-pronged China strategy to convince the Chinese government to reform its illiberal human rights and trade policies. Rejoin the TPP, whose 11 members are developing institutional trade norms in an important geopolitical region without U.S. input or involvement. Reorient the proposed Indo-Pacific economics framework for prosperity to focus only on trade issues, which it currently ignores in favor of progressive wish list policies. Strengthen diplomatic pressure in concert with allies against Beijing's abuses. Encourage cultural and intellectual engagement with the Chinese people, remembering that blue jeans and rock and roll helped win the Cold War. Dude, this is written in such a funny way. You are 75 years old if you think that the Chinese people don't have access to the exact same things that you're talking about right now. That's so stupid. The entire point, the entire reason why a similar Cold War cannot happen with China as opposed to Russia is because of the intricate ties that we here in the West have with China and vice versa. They buy our shit. They manufacture our shit. They sell our shit. They sell it back to us in ways that the USSR did not do. This is so stupid. The idea that you think you can do cultural imperialism on China when China has eaten up all of the American culture. They love it. They love American culture. They consume it. They're not sheltered from it at all. They consume it. They like it. They enjoy it. But you know what else they enjoy? China's prosperity on the global stage. They definitely enjoy that. Tariff relief. When people try something repeatedly and it still doesn't work, they should stop doing it, especially when the consequences turn out to be just what the conservative economists have long predicted they would be. With tariffs, oops. Oh, fuck. I accidentally clicked on it and skipped all the way out here. God damn it. Okay. We're reading Project 2025, chat. Okay. Tariff relief. With tariffs, the proper reform is not only to get rid of the individual tariffs that have backfired, but also build institutional safeguards against future abuse. We are 5 years into the biggest experiment with tariffs since the Great Depression, and the results are in. The new tariffs raise consumer prices for ordinary Americans by about $1,200 per household every year, and benefit only a small number of special interests. Steel and aluminum tariffs enacted on national security grounds angered allies. Beijing made not a single substantive reform in response to the 4 rounds of tariffs plus an attempted phase 1 agreement. Wait, they spent the past 30 pages glazing Donald Trump's initiatives only to dispute it immediately. This right here is just undermining the past 30 pages of being like, Mr. President is glorious. He is going to do fantastic things by destroying the World Trade Organization only to rebuild it just for liberal democracies like ourselves, you know? Response to 4 rounds of tariffs was an attempted phase 1 agreement. The Biden admin has left the tariffs in its place and is expanding in the pursuit of progressive policy goals. The first order of business for the new admin that is focused on American workers and consumers is to repeal all tariffs enacted under Section 232. Wait, what? I'm so confused. So they're saying repeal the tariffs? The second order is to require Congress to pass legislation repealing Sections 232, 201, and 301. The U.S. Constitution places all taxing authority with Congress and none with the president. Congress used those provisions of law to delegate some of its taxing authority to the president because it was having trouble passing clean tariff legislation in the 60s and 70s. Congress was a problem of collective action in the 1960s. Repeal specific tariffs and put global ones. Ironically enough, specific tariffs are smarter than global tariffs. That's my point. Directional tariffs, in order to boost domestic manufacturing, is smart. It makes sense. It is a long-term good thing. Not to say that like the previous administrations were doing that, for the record. I'm not saying that at all. I don't think that they were doing that. But it's ironic that Trump is, or Project 2025 wants to repeal smarter tariffs, I guess, in comparison, to make it like universal. And I guess my point is, if you sanction everybody, you technically are sanctioning just yourself. If you tariff everybody, you technically are just tariffing yourself. You know? Do you see what I mean? America has caused a secondary market to organically develop as a direct consequence of SWIFT, and not only just SWIFT, but also these sanctions regime that they greatly beefed up from Barack Obama to Donald Trump 1 to Brandon and now Donald Trump 2. They've sanctioned the entire planet, basically. And now they're tariffing the rest. Sanctions for our enemies, the poorest countries in the global south, in order to keep them as poor as possible. And then tariffs for our allies. Okay, then you're just alone. That's it. That's the final process here. And it's very difficult. It's very difficult for these guys, these poor guys, to defend these decisions. Let's take a look at what Fox and Friends had to say about this, you know?
But Moody's comes out and they said that an escalation of the trade war could wipe out 5.5 million jobs and lift unemployment to 7%, and GDP could drop 1.7%. That's if people don't come off it, and Moody's is not for it. But the tariffs will apply, will bring a lot of money in on just the tariff goods. And let's see, the ultimate goal is to bring manufacturing back here. Right. Ro Khanna doesn't think it's going to...
Nothing wrong with tariffs. I'm going to live an exciting life as a smuggler. Now is the age of sail. That's right. The world has yielded tremendous bounty for me. I am a pirate.
Bring manufacturing.
Well, Brian, that is the dream. Keep in mind, this is a gigantic experiment like we've never seen before. You know, on paper, it looks great to the president and his team, who were talking about it would be great to bring jobs back to the United States. But keep in mind, people have got to come over here and build factories, and that takes years. And there's a lot of uncertainty on Wall Street and also in the business community about, okay, this new round of tariffs, how long is it going to last? Are they going to last 1 year, 5 years, 10 years? They've got to be able to plan, and that's why the stock market has been trade. And you know, Jackie, I was.
Oh man, it's just hard. You know, our brave, bold, beautiful president, who always is the best thinker, has the best interests of the wealthy in mind, I promise, and the working class in mind. He's doing his very best. But the problem is, you know, even when he's doing his very best, the market simply doesn't understand. You know, the market moves, the market thinks in decades. Donald Trump thinks in centuries. And that's the problem. And you know, growing pains. It's just growing pains.
Just thinking about that. The president's calling it Liberation Day, but maybe we should call it Libation Day because, Wall Street's all over the place. They might start hitting the soil.
No, that's good. That's good. It's a good thing, right? It's good when market volatility famously is a good thing, right? That's what capital owners love, especially when it's so volatile that you can't even you can't even make like discernible good trade, discernible good stock trading decisions.
Us at 4 o'clock when they finally unveiled this thing. I was
maybe even sooner.
Yeah, that's right. I was reading this morning that apparently, according to the Wall Street Journal, some people in the business community and on Wall Street are still banking on the idea that the White House might actually pull back on the tariffs if something bad happens to the economy. And I know Goldman Sachs.
I love this, dude. Everyone is just like, all of America's wealthiest capital owners are sitting around biting their nails at the whims of seemingly a madman. It's awesome. Oh, he's not serious, you guys. He was just memeing. He was just joking. I think, right? Right? You're joking, right? It's hard. It's hard for me not to look at this and laugh a little bit. I mean, it's sad because, as I've said time and time again, in the stock market, the gains are privatized and the losses are socialized. So when the stock market is up, you're not going to feel it. But when it's down, you certainly will feel it, right? And it is down, or it's been down for sure. So I have chatters talking about how like their 401ks are just like getting gutted in the process. My crypto bros cope by saying volatility is vitality. I am seeing a lot of crypto bros saying the exact opposite because the crypto markets are crashing too. Like universities and law firms, CEOs stay quiet amid fear of getting crossed with Trump. As trillions in new tariffs come out, some see little upside in objecting even privately. What good would it do if they said anything, said Mark Cuban. I've seen a lot of them saying it's a good thing because there's a fire sale. Yeah, they're stupid. I mean, they're in crypto anyway, so they're stupid regardless. The crypto bros cope is that this will crash the dollar and everyone will move to crypto is the dumbest argument that anyone could ever make. Because at the end of the day, one, you're living in America. If the dollar crashes, the entire global marketplace collapses. What are you talking about? And it will inevitably, it will also crash crypto as it is doing currently. So what the fuck are you talking about? Everything is tied to the dollar. People are so dumb. What? This is a thing that I will never understand as well. Like Trump makes like these little schemes and grifts on the side for cryptocurrency millionaires and whatever. And that's one. Why in the ever-loving fuck would an American leadership destroy the global petrodollar, the global currency, which is perhaps the most significant factor in America's global dominance? Why would they do that? Baba biraz sesini kız. Çok bağırıyor. Baba. Peki. Bitcoin is up 80. Bitcoin is at 86K and it's up today. Wait, are you anti-Bitcoin? Bitcoin is literally up today. Yes, I'm anti-cryptocurrency. I've always been anti-cryptocurrency. I will continue being anti-cryptocurrency. Welcome to the broadcast. I am anti-cryptocurrency. I hope that's not offensive to you.
Sachs is predicting now with the tariffs, there's a 35% chance of a recession.
That has been put out there.
Oh my God. Why do I have so many? BTC still up 85K. What are you talking about? We've been hearing the haters on BTC for over a decade now, but what is the value at now? He doesn't know what he's talking about. Oh my God. Have fun, dude. Have fun. Okay? You're going to the moon. You're going to the moon, dude.
I think also the impact of a recession on other countries would be more difficult. For instance, with Canada, it will be harder for them to pull out of a recession, which is a big concern for them.
BTC is literally down, was up 125K before Trump, so I don't know what these chatters are saying. No, that's just normal. That's normal, dude. You don't understand. That's normal. It's going to go to the moon again. It'll shoot back up. Yeah, the tulip prices have been increasing for a decade. No way they will go down. How the fuck are you a crypto leftist? I don't know. I don't know how that works, but honestly, more power to you guys, okay? More power to you guys. You understand? Have fun, you know? Make your money. Get your money up, not your funny up, crypto leftists. Okay? It's great. Have fun. I don't care. I am long on Retardio and Dogshit 1, Dogshit 2, Dogshit 3. When it inevitably launches, I'm long on Hawk 2 a coin. Just say you hate gambling. What the fuck? I mean, yeah, I don't even like the stock market. Why the fuck would I like cryptocurrency? Give me some more copium from the Republicans trying to talk about these tariffs, please. I need to see more copium from the Republicans trying to defend the tariff decisions. Thomas Friedman glazing China. I just saw the future. It was not in America. I had a choice the other day in Shanghai. Which Tomorrowland to visit? Should I check out the fake American design Tomorrowland in Shanghai Disneyland, or should I visit the real Tomorrowland, the massive new research center, roughly the size of 225 football fields, built by Chinese technology giant Huawei? I went to Huawei's. Oh my God. Oh my God. They're doing it. They're fucking doing it.
I just saw the future. Decades told me in Beijing. There was a time when people came to America to see the future, he said. Now they come here. I'd never seen anything like this Huawei campus. Built in just over 104 individually designed buildings, with manicured lawns, connected by a Disney-like monorail, housing labs for up to 35,000 scientists, engineers, and other workers.
Huh? Okay. Amazing, amazing, amazing. One crop away from bankruptcy. Republican Senator Tom Tillis warns Trump tariffs will do irreparable damage to the farmers. Oh,
says
no.
There may be a little bit of pain before we get things right. Need to talk about farmers who are one crop away from bankruptcy. They don't have time, so we've got to be crisp on this implementation. Otherwise, we could do damage that's irreparable to farmers. Anyone who says there may be a little bit of
Yeah. No, it's good though. It's good. It's good. Listen, the Great Depression too. Many people are saying Trump is going to bring about the Great Depression too. I'm one of those people, but also simultaneously, I think it's great. After all, it's in the name. It's not shitty depression too. It's Great Depression. Why can't we be great? Make America great again. Make America Great Depression again. Magda, no bailouts no tariff exemptions for American farmers. They voted for the tariffs when they voted for Trump. Oh no, American farmers are pleading for exemptions from President Trump's tariffs. Republican members of Congress from farm states are working to deliver relief farmers want, but farmers do not deserve special treatment and should not get it, says David from. Oh, poverty builds character. I myself, of course, will not be experiencing the backlash from this, but for you, poverty will build character for you. Tariffs will indeed hurt farmers badly. Farms' costs will rise. Farm incomes will drop. Under Trump's tariffs, farmers will pay more for fertilizer. They will pay more for farm equipment. They will pay more for the fuel to ship their products to market. When foreign countries retaliate, raising their own tariff barriers, American farmers will lose export markets. Their domestic sales will come under pressure too. The 5D chess move was China throwing tariffs on Canada in retaliation, but also to bring to the table for oil. Let's see what let's see. Are you okay? Oh, I love this. I love Republicans when they try to like defend Donald Trump. This is one of my favorite songs that I love listening to. I don't listen to much music, but this right here is the tune, okay? This right here is the whistle tune that I tap into. This is my frequency. I want to hear what the Asmongoldian side is saying about the brilliant, brave, bold tariff agenda. Like how are the prominent Republican commentators, how are the prominent conservative commentators defending these decisions? I want to know.
With your constituents feeling more pressure and more pain when it comes to the economy as these tariffs are put in place, and then the retaliatory tariffs are also put in place. Are you okay with pain being on their shoulders for a while as this all gets worked out?
Nobody. It's just common sense. You develop an intricate network of global trade in an effort to benefit the American consumers, especially by way of capital owners charging super profits, making super profits for decades, only to undermine it with a indecipherable tariffs regime that will seemingly not even boost manufacturing, but it's base, it's common sense. Everybody, it's so common sense that capital owners don't understand it, and many parts of the left also don't understand it either, myself included. It's just common sense when only Donald Trump understands the decision making behind this initiative, which he will probably go back on, by the way. When the market starts screaming, when prices go up and people rise up in arms because their Twinkies are unaffordable, you know, the common sense position will be to go back on these decisions.
Nobody wants pain for their constituents. I don't want pain for the people of Florida.
But Donald Trump said there will be some pain and disruptions.
Hold on. But you are making an assumption without knowing the details.
I'm not making the assumption. Donald Trump himself said there was pain and disruption that was going to happen.
You're making an assumption. You are making an assumption, an economic assumption right now. Let's be very clear. The real pain economically has been the massive inflation coming from bloated overspending here in Washington, D.C.
This is so funny. Yeah. Washington, D.C. doing trans Sesame Street in Iraq, which is not even a crumb in comparison to, like, you know, social safety net spending, obviously, which is an absolute necessity. That's really breaking the bank. Also, do not look at the Defense Department. Do not try to audit the Pentagon. Do not look at the Defense Department. It's the overspending by Washington that has done inflation. Yeah, we're bloated. We're bloated because we're doing too much gay stuff in Washington. That's where the inflation is coming from, and not corporate consolidation that my party, the Republicans, and also in many instances the Democrats too, have allowed, so that there's like 3 corporations that dominate every sector, and they can very quickly rise price regardless of what the demand looks like and regardless of what the supply looks like. It's awesome. It's fantastic. What are you talking about?
That is the real pain that the American people have felt the last 4 years.
Are you okay?
Also, these initiatives will legitimately raise prices. They will raise prices.
All right, here we
go.
This
makes no
Liberation Day.
sense.
President Trump is set to roll out a wave of tariffs to advance America First economic agenda. It's going to rebalance trade. And the White House says they're going to go into effect immediately.
Lucas Thomason joins us live from Washington. Good morning, Lucas.
Good morning, Lawrence, Ainsley, and friends. Today is what President Trump calls Liberation Day, when these new tariffs will be rolled out. Champions of free trade, going back to Adam Smith's invisible hand, don't believe they will work. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt says they will.
They will be effective immediately. And the president has been teasing this for quite some time. They're not going to be wrong. It is going to work. And the president has a brilliant team of advisors who have been studying these issues for decades. And we are focused on restoring the golden age of America and making America a manufacturing superpower.
Now, while details are not immediately clear, this is what we know ahead of President Trump's address this afternoon. The reciprocal tariffs could be less than what other countries charge the U.S. Rates may vary depending on country. The new tariffs could also apply to all countries, and sector-specific products such as steel and aluminum imports are already subject to a 25% tariff, and the car and auto parts import tariff are expected to begin today. The money will begin coming in tomorrow. And Goldman Sachs has raised the odds of a recession in the U.S. to 35%. White House trade advisor Peter Navarro says the new tariffs will bring in $6 trillion over the next decade, which is being called the largest peacetime tax hike in modern history, which will be paid for by the American consumer. Navarro said the auto tariffs alone will bring in $100 billion per year. And President Trump has acknowledged prices could rise, but said people are going to start buying American-made cars, guys.
Hey, Lucas, could we have last-minute deals, too? Change their trade structure? We accepted that. Could the president be working the phones today, getting calls from other countries?
With President Trump, of course, he's known as a deal maker, guys. You saw what Israel did. They zeroed out their tariffs in the United States. Right. So perhaps we could have some last-minute deals. Mm-hmm. All it takes is a post on X.
There you go. Indeed. And, Lucas, did you say that one of those big investment firms says there's a 35% chance of a recession now?
I did, Steve. Goldman Sachs, they raised it up to 35%. It was like 15, 20% earlier because of the tariffs. We'll have to watch the markets for the opening bell.
Lots to talk about. Yeah. Lucas, thank you very much. He mentioned we got to watch the markets. Originally, this announcement was supposed to be at 3 o'clock in the afternoon in the Rose Garden. But then they moved it back smartly because whatever is announced is going to impact the market.
Smartly? Dog, if your announcement is supposed to impact the market in a negative fashion, that is an indefensible move that you are, of course, trying to defend. That's so funny. Dude, he's like, no, you don't understand. This is actually a brilliant move this is actually a brilliant move because the decision is dog shit. And and therefore it's good that they're doing it after the markets close. Okay, so what happens when the markets open tomorrow? Masterful gambit, sir. You will you will deliver a stay of execution for the markets for a total of what? Fucking 12 hours? Great. How do we think that pro-Trump gamers handle their consoles being more? Yeah. Nintendo Switch 2 costs $450. It costs $333 in Japan. For the Japanese-only console version, but for the multi-region, it's $467. Culture crave misinformation? Wow, I'm surprised.
What Wall Street hopes is there is some clarity, because right now businesses, they can't plan because they don't know, is it going to be drips, drabs? They're going to announce something today, something else next week.
Yeah, I want to hear from the pro-Trump gamers when they have to pay like $100 for fucking Mario Kart. It's going to be awesome. That's what I want. That's what I want to know. Pro-Trump gamers, are you enjoying the show? I hope you have your popcorn, because he's not making titties larger in video games. But he is making it more expensive for you to see even the gay video games that you don't want to play. He went too far. He came after gamers.
They need to know long-term whether or not they should invest money in new plants here in the United States. Because the worry is if they invest to build a factory here in the U.S. and then in a year or 2 or 3 or 4, free trade comes back, they get screwed by putting all that money back here.
All of this is because Trump wants free and fair trade. He doesn't want America to be taken advantage of, and we have under past administrations. He says not under my watch. You mentioned Vietnam. Vietnam has already cut duties on U.S. imports because of this. They've cut its tariffs, and LNG, they cut it down to 2% from 5%. Cars down to 32%. Originally was 45 to 64%. Ethanol, 5%. It was 10%. In India, they reduced tariffs on motorcycles and whiskeys. Mexico, they deployed those 10,000 troops to the border to help with the immigration problem. The EU is proposing.
I think one of the funniest parts about this is like, ironically, and this might come as a surprise to people, but like free trade doesn't necessarily mean it's free. Okay. And one formative principle in the United States of America has always been that we don't necessarily have to make products that people want to purchase. We can just use our domineering power around global trade to force countries to buy our shit. This is a part of the problem. And I've been saying this, even with car manufacturing. If you want other countries to buy your cars, okay, make cars that they want to buy. Now, a big part of that is, of course, pricing, for sure, which tariffs would be able to, I guess, deal with if these countries were to reduce their tariffs for purchasing, reduce the tariffs, and then it's like cheaper in comparison. It just will never be able to compete with BYD, though, obviously. But also, there is another major issue. If the most popular car being manufactured in the United States of America by American manufacturers is a Ford F-150, which requires a commercial driver's license in other countries because it is a ginormous truck and it simply can't operate on European roads, for example. Why the fuck would they buy that? They can't. It just doesn't make any sense. They're like, no, you're going to fucking like you're going to have a Ford F-150 and you're going to like it. You're going to buy it. Buy our cars now.
Lowering tariffs on car imports from 10% closer to the 2.5% that Donald Trump wants. Canada unveiled a $1.3 billion security plan for the U.S. and pledged to have this fentanyl czar. So those are some examples. But as far as investments are concerned, Johnson & Johnson investing $55 billion. We heard from Apple, $500 billion. SoftBank, OpenAI, Oracle, $100 billion. Hyundai, $20 billion in the U.S. Nissan, $661 million. Eli Lilly, $27 billion. So it's working. Those are investments. It might, in the short term, be a little painful for Americans, but overall, this is about being fair.
A lot of it has to do with this unplowed ground. We've never seen this before. These are 10 times as big as the tariffs the president had last time. They were so effective. Joe Biden left them all in place. Everyone said the sky was going to fall. It didn't. These are about the size of William McKinley's, where he raised taxes on imports 50% in the 1890s. And it is the template President Trump has went with. Steve, you mentioned about building factories here. And are we going to build a factory here and end up zeroing out the tariffs? I don't think it's ever not going to benefit under the Trump years any company from coming back to America, down to zero, or coming to America. Right. You know, that's one of the things they balanced out in the 80s. Everything was targeted when Donald Trump first came out and said, Japan's our problem, and cars, we're losing our leadership in cars. All of a sudden, Japan goes, what if I build Toyotas by you? What if I brought Honda there? And then we began to rebalance, and throughout most of the South, you got the Hyundai away from the unions, the Honda and
Apple in
Toyota.
Texas.
One person that continues to be a great messenger, not just for the Republicans.
Yeah, 1890, famously a really good time for the American economy. Please, please don't look at what happened after, okay? Famously, the period between 1890 and like 1920 is a time that Americans know as the glory days, okay? One of the best times for America. Famously, a real ushering in a second golden age. Don't look at what happened after. For 1890, there were market crashes basically every decade because there wasn't any welfare or financial system to stabilize things and support Americans. Yeah, it's really cool that Trump is also doing that. He's looking at all of the gains that were made, all of the initiatives that were taken in an effort to stabilize the American economy and saying, we should cut all of that and simultaneously bring it back to a stage where, you know, we have the golden age of the American economy. Deregulation, mass corporate consolidation. Wait, Chamath, what the fuck is he saying? Had an eye-opening dinner last night with two CEOs working to build an American supply chain for battery, CAM, and rare earths. These are two important drivers of electrification, robotics, EVs, etc. The difficulties beating China won't come down to tariffs, but mercantilism. The Chinese have 1-2 national champions for critical parts of the global economy. Then they subsidize these NCs, national champions, as necessary, dump product to impact spot price markets, and shape profitability with loans and grants that collectively make these national champions impossible to beat. So what should America do? Hard question without a simple answer. But one thing is obvious. We are not nearly as organized as China is to even be able to point a few national champions in critical areas. One example, the Department of Energy and DOD have spent hundreds of millions of dollars to try to do rare earth extraction from coal tailings at 100 ppm. Commercial companies can barely make profit at 6K to 60K ppm. What's the point of this? The money spent on coal tailings could have instead helped build domestic manufacturing and supply chains years ago, but the large capital allocation and meeting of the minds to make these decisions isn't happening. We need better organization and top-down capital allocation if we are to play this game. A centralization of the economy, if you will. Interesting. Like we need. I mean, he's literally saying we need central planning to be able to compete with China. The skill and prowess exists in the U.S. and its allies, but Chinese mercantilism is a fierce and dynamic force that needs to be met head-on with equally smart tactics and capital allocation by America. Huh. Wow. How did this happen? Why are so many pro-capitalist monsters running around talking like China glazers, you know? Tankies. What is happening? Why are these guys talking like they're a bunch of tankers? What the hell is this? I thought China was collapsing tomorrow. I watched so many YouTube videos, guys. I watched so many YouTube videos that said China is collapsing yesterday. China is collapsing tomorrow. China has already collapsed. They're lying about their numbers. What the hell is going on? The issue is that Chinese companies don't have to consistently post 10 to 20% growth like American companies. They are happy with 2% growth, which means they undercut every U.S. company. The U.S. will never do this, though, because those companies and shareholders are too greedy. What is going on? Is it because the U.S. aid dried up? Because people are... Look, you can only maintain a silly position for far too long. If it's hammering you in the head, if it's brutalizing you over and over again, you inevitably have to go, all right, we have to admit our mistakes here. Because you can manufacture consent as long as you want, but, you know, when your manufacturing is dried up, and the situation is unmanageable and people's wallets are being hit in the process, you can't really just say, no. The shocks that you're experiencing are good, actually. And people will riot. So, you know, something to consider. Something to consider. Meanwhile, IShowSpeed is in China farming millions and millions of likes. People are going, oh my God, China is amazing. Why did everybody lie? Why did everybody lie to me about China? Devastating time to be an anti-China guy. Real bad.
Republican Party, but for Donald Trump, knowing the Trump speak is Kellyanne Conway. I think this has become a patriotic message. You build here. This is for our workers here. It's a national security issue. We can't be getting our PPE. We saw what happened during the pandemic. We're getting all of this stuff from other countries. Kellyanne Conway explained what the president is trying to do.
President Trump is using tariffs to, one, raise revenues for this country, two, to recalibrate and make more reciprocal our trade imbalance with other countries. You listed all the ones which are egregious violations of any kind of common sense and fairness, Sean. And also, President Trump is trying to protect American sovereignty, American security, American manufacturing, American jobs, America herself. I think President Trump would tell a lot of these companies, if not countries, tariffs are not his choice, they're your choice. If you don't want these tariffs, then start building more factories here, expanding your facility capacity, investing more in American workers, American innovation.
Right, and that's what we've heard from the administration, and they're putting all their eggs in that basket.
Okay. Company builds an American manufacturing hub. Okay. Invests a lot of money. The goods that are necessary for industrial output are still coming from foreign nations. What do you do in that situation? It's still going to be more costly. This is the problem with the universal tariffs regime that Donald Trump is implementing. Okay? That's the issue. You say it sounds like extortion. Fine. Okay? Sure, I don't have an issue with extorting capital owners to force them to bring back manufacturing to the United States of America. I don't have an issue with that at all. It's a fantasy. It is hilarious that, like, it is hilarious to me that Donald Trump is doing some of the fantasies of the left as well here. Like, the notion that you can just, like, bully capital owners to bring back manufacturing to the United States of America. If he was successful in his implementation, that is literally what I would want, okay? That is what I would want. Donald Trump undermining U.S. aid. Donald Trump shutting down Voice of America. Like, what are we doing? Also, Andrew Tate favorabilities are at net 29 negative is so funny. Why is Andrew Tate being polled here? The MAGA communists are in control. Andrew Tate more popular than Chuck Schumer on this list, by the way. Trump is now at a -7. Nobody likes any of the main politicians in the country. The sales department in my factory job bragged about how everyone wants American made, and we're American made, so the tariffs will help us. Meanwhile, we get our steel from China and have customers in Canada. That's what I mean. That's what I mean. That's what I mean. That's what I mean. That's what I'm talking about. You have designed global trade to be a certain way for decades and decades, and then you choose to undermine it for no real discernible reason. I know Trump is about to be live, chat. Don't worry. We're going to go there. We're going to go there soon. Okay?
If it works, it will be fantastic, but it is a gigantic experiment. It sounds like right now the conventional wisdom is, rather than the little deals, the little side deals with everybody.
I want to die.
Okay, you do 2% on us. It will probably be a 20% universal tariff, which is across the board. If they implement that, which would be immediate, according to the White House, it would bring the effective U.S. tariff rate to almost 33%, which is the highest since 1872, which, Brian, you were talking about McKinley with the very high rates back then. 33% is a big number. And I know there are a lot of people who are on fixed incomes who are watching. You know, they're watching their 401k account go down. Let's just hope today's announcement brings some finality and some clarity, because right now they don't have that.
Right.
Yeah.
I just the one thing about Trump I noticed is that when things are tense, he gets the calmest. So when they attack his family, is a little different.
But you'll see ice in the veins through. He really feels as though this has been his vision since the 1990s. This is the World War II structure of trade. He wants to balance it out. And when you take these titanic plates and move them, there's going to be rumbling. People are going to get dislodged. But hopefully, they're going to get adhesed, and the foundation will be real strong. Some said, wait for the tax cuts. Wait for them to pass the one big, beautiful bill, then do this.
God, I'm so jealous. I'm so jealous that Donald Trump gets to do all of this, and he's doing it in the wrong direction anyway. I'm sorry. I just have to be so honest about this. Like, he gets to do everything. He gets to break everything. He gets to break everything for no real reason. And you know, he's the only guy who's allowed to do this stuff. It makes me so goddamn jealous, dude. Because, like, as someone whose politics are not represented in the mainstream, I imagine a world where, like, a anti-capitalist, like even a social democrat, FDR style New Deal Democrat, comes into office and is basically doing this, some of the exact same things that Trump is doing, as a matter of fact, and like puts people like myself into positions of power. You know what I mean? Like, it's hard for me not to, it's hard for me not to feel a little jealous. Almost in the same way that I looked at like January 6th, where there's only mobilization on the right. You know? Like, Trump is able to move the country in a right-wing direction aggressively by force with seemingly the heavens mandate, even though everyone goes, what the fuck are you doing? He's able to bully capital owners. He's able to do whatever the fuck he wants. It's just, I don't know.